Hello and welcome to The Top Story, a podcast with the headlines of the day from our correspondents around the world. I'm Qi Zhi. Coming up in this edition, France is on course for a minority government after the left-wing New Popular Front unexpectedly took top spot in Sunday's election. High temperatures are meeting or exceeding daily records in many US cities. And Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso have officially left the Economic Community of West African States. We begin in Europe. France is expecting a minority government after the left-wing New Popular Front unexpectedly took top spot in Sunday's election. Projections show President Emmanuel Macron's centrist coalition is in second. The far right, led by Marine Le Pen, will be in third place. There's no outright majority in the National Assembly, and the ongoing political drama is far from over. Ross Collin has more.
Well, this was a real surprise. Jubilation for the left, but disappointment for the far right. The National Rally Party won the first round of France's general election and had been leading the pre-vote polls going into the runoff on Sunday. But the electorate decided to vote instead for the New Popular Front and President Macron's centrist alliance. This means that France will now have a hung parliament. And the current Prime Minister, who represents President Macron's party, says the result means that he will offer to hand in his resignation on Monday.
I know that in light of the results tonight, many French people feel a form of uncertainty over the future because no absolute majority has come out of it. Our country is experiencing an unprecedented political situation and is preparing to welcome the world for the Olympics in a couple of weeks. That said, I will of course do my duties as long as is needed. It cannot be otherwise on the eve of a date that is so important for our country.
The far rights had been on track for a historic victory, according to the pre-vote polls, but instead it will be the third biggest grouping in Parliament. Now, its leaders tried to put a positive spin on the results, saying that it was merely delaying an inevitable eventual victory, also saying that President Macron's position is now untenable.
Le Rassemblement National va amplifier son travail.
The National Rally will be stepping up its work, firstly in the National Assembly behind Marine Le Pen, and then in the country, continuing to work towards national unity, bringing all French people together, and of course, the necessary democratic changeover that is coming.
There will now be weeks of political dialogue, discussion and haggling over how a coalition government could work and which political priorities should take precedence. The loudest voices will come from the left-wing alliance, which has won, and they will likely demand that the next Prime Minister come from their bloc.
La volonté du peuple doit être dorénavant.
Now the will of the people must be strictly respected. From now on, no tricks, backroom deals, nor combinations would be acceptable. The lesson to be taken from the vote is definitive. The defeat of the president and his coalition has been confirmed with clarity. The president must give in and admit this defeat without trying to get around it in any way. The prime minister must go.
The manoeuvring and machinations will consume a lot of time in the coming weeks, just as the country prepares to host the Olympics. But what is clear is that France is in for a period of political uncertainty, with no single bloc holding a majority.
That was Ross Collin on the French legislative elections. Turning to the Americas. High temperatures are meeting or exceeding daily records in many cities in the United States. The U.S. National Weather Service says about 10% of the country is under an excessive heat warning because of a heat dome centered over California. And Tropical Storm Beryl made landfall in Texas near Houston early Monday. Popin Putin has more.
Hurricane Beryl left a deadly trail of destruction sweeping across the Caribbean last week, pummeling Jamaica, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines as wind speeds reached as high as 265 kilometers per hour. At least 11 deaths are linked to the hurricane that reached at its height Category 5 status, the earliest storm on record to achieve such strength. By the time Beryl made landfall in Mexico on Friday, the weather system had lost some energy, hitting the Yucatan Peninsula as a Category 2 hurricane, and later weakening to a tropical storm. Forecasters say Beryl is on track to slam into the U.S. as a Category 1 hurricane. Texas is already being drenched as Beryl is on path to make landfall in the early hours of Monday. Expected, strong winds of up to 152 kilometers per hour and flooding rain, dumping as much as 30 centimeters in some areas. 1 million Texans are under hurricane warning, with some county authorities issuing evacuation notices before the eye of the storm passes over. In preparation, Texans stocked up on gas and groceries, as well as stormproofing their homes.
It frustrates the locals a little bit, you know. They just think it's going to be some grand rainstorm, but it's really not. We take it very serious.
Meteorologists expect Beryl to continue northeastwards into the U.S. mainland next week, weakening to a tropical storm.
That was Popman Putin reporting from Washington. To Africa, the asylum deal between the United Kingdom and Rwanda is facing imminent collapse after newly elected UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced that the Labour government would scrap it. The UK government has spent more than £320 million on the controversial scheme, which entails sending asylum seekers to the Central African nation. While some in Rwanda feel relieved, others argue that their country should not have been burdened with the UK's political issues. Atan Toshubia reports from Kigali.
Hostels had been built, equipped with recreational amenities, and over 150 people had been hired and trained to work in these facilities. However, now this seems unlikely after Sir Keir Starmer confirmed that Rwanda deportation scheme is now dead and buried in his first press conference as Prime Minister. The new UK Prime Minister criticised the scheme established by the previous Conservative government as a gimmick for deporting migrants arriving illegally in the UK. Reactions are mixed. Some say the development spares Rwanda from tarnishing its image, while others believe Rwanda should not be blamed for UK's misguided policy.
It's a relief for those people who have been scared of coming to Rwanda. So countries like the UK, the Germany and the Denmark who want to take off their own responsibility and throw it to us, we are not happy with that.
What image does it give of Britain, the Great Britain, to expel some members of the Commonwealth? Whose image is at stake here?
Reports from the UK suggest that £320 million is likely lost after the Conservatives were ousted from power. The Rwandan government has not yet responded to the developments. Previously, President Paul Kagame said Rwanda was not to blame, but was offering a solution to asylum seekers in the UK. He also said Rwanda would refund the UK if the scheme failed and they asked for a refund. The financial implications of scrapping the scheme and total bill to taxpayers are still unknown. Significant amounts had been spent on the scheme. Rwanda was expecting to receive 100,000 people over the next 5 years. Rwanda was also planning to build 1,000 housing units for the immigrants sent by the UK.
That was Atan Toshubia in the Rwandan capital. Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso have officially left the Economic Community of West African States. The trio held their first joint summit in the Nigerian capital over the weekend. They signed a treaty setting up a confederation between them. This came as Nigerian President Bola Tinubu was re-elected as the ECOWAS chairman. Sharon Baranga has more.
The Niamey meeting of the military leaders of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger officially marked the trio's exit from the West African bloc ECOWAS. The summit concluded with the signing of a treaty establishing the Alliance of Sahel States Confederation.
Our people have irrevocably turned their backs on ECOWAS. It is up to us to make the Confederation Alliance of Sahel States an alternative to any artificial regional grouping by building a sovereign community of people, a community distant from control of foreign powers, a community of peace, solidarity, and prosperity based on our African values.
The common ground that unites us today should enable us to expand our scope beyond defense to encompass other areas such as finance and the economy, infrastructure, health, education, and so on.
We will invest in expanding road, rail and air infrastructure, as well as new information and communication technologies. This will stimulate further investment in agricultural production and processing industries, capitalizing on the complementary nature of our economies.
The ECOWAS exits were fueled in part by accusations that France was manipulating its former colonies within the bloc and failure to help the countries curb a militant insurgency. Nations in West Africa's Sahel region have been plagued by terrorist insurgencies for years. Many people in the three countries have expressed optimism that the new alliance of Sahel states will bring about solutions to their pressing problems.
These three African heads of state are a true gift to the continent. They are already well versed in the challenges facing the African continent and are not here to promote the cause of imperialists. They initiated positive action even before the alliance of Sahel states was established. We are pleased to see these actions, which demonstrate that they are fighting this battle for us and not for their own benefit.
The trio have made a sovereignty a guiding principle of their governance and aim to create a common currency.
That was Sharon Baranga reporting from Africa. Finally, in Asia, China's Ministry of Water Resources predicts that water levels in the middle and lower reaches of the Yangtze River will soon drop below the warning line. But it has continued an emergency response due to flooding in Anhui, Jiangxi, Hubei and Hunan provinces in southern China. Meanwhile, the weather authority is warning of potential flooding risk due to persistent rainfall in the southwestern province of Sichuan. In the north, a wet spell has affected thousands of people in Lingyi, Shandong province. Nearly 2,000 people have evacuated from the area. Meanwhile, efforts are underway to repair a dam break at Dongting Lake in the central province of Hunan. Excessive rain led to the dike burst in China's second largest lake on Friday, causing flooding in the area. So far, workers have closed more than 140 meters of the gap. Authorities say they expect to seal the breach by noon on Tuesday. Rescuers have also been working on strengthening an embankment near the site to ensure the safety of villagers downstream. Tambo has more.
Now the gravel boat from neighboring regions and also neighboring province of Hubei have already arrived there, unloading sand into the bridge to close the gap. And also on the way to it, trucks lining up, trucks carrying sand and boulders and rocks are lining up, heading towards the bridge, unload and close the gap. As of now, over 100,000 cubic meters of rocks have been dispatched for this mission. And also there are three things I want to share with you, which is contributing to the mission of closing the gap. The very first one is the weather. It's been very sunny over the past few days. And the second one is that the water flow at the bridge area has been very steady and slow. So that's easy for those sand and rocks reach the bottom of the lake. And the third thing is that we know the Dongting Lake takes in 4 major rivers going through the Hunan province. And now the upland waters from these 4 major rivers is decreasing, which means that the water level of Dongting Lake, at least it's not rising, so that's also good for the gap closing mission. And one detail is that so far, the water level of the flooded area is slightly higher than that of Dongting Lake. So the water is flowing back to the lake, and it's very slowly and steadily, so that's not a big problem for this gap-filling mission.
That was Tambo reporting. Meanwhile, Xu Xingchen visited a resettlement center where those affected by the flooding have taken up residence.
Along the dike, work is still ongoing. And right now, I'm at one of the larger resettlement centers in the Huarong County, the Huarong County Vocational School. We do have an excited bunch residents, so they are here to pick up some donations of clothes. A lot of them actually moved into the resettlement center with no luggage. And clothes for ladies and right across us for gentlemen. They were donated by the school teacher from this very vocational school and also from the Huarong County in central China's Hunan province. There are 4 residential buildings of this vocational school are now used to resettle those people impacted by the dike bridge. We have a medical room. It's always on duty. The resettlement center is really open like 24/7.
That was Xu Xingchen at a relocation center as efforts continue to plug a breached dam in Hunan province. Now recapping today's headlines. France is on course for a minority government after the left-wing New Popular Front unexpectedly took top spot in Sunday's election. High temperatures are meeting or exceeding daily records in many cities across the United States. And Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso have officially left the Economic Community of West African States. And that's it for this edition of The Top Story, a podcast that brings you world headlines every weekday. For more news in politics, business, sports and culture, you can subscribe to the Beijing Hour, a one-hour podcast news magazine program. We welcome and appreciate all ratings and reviews. I'm Qi Zhi. Thanks for listening.